Mr. Obama, so that we then have the standing to go to other countries and start stitching back. Together the non-proliferation treaties that frankly have been weakened over the last several years. Okay. All right. Sam Stein, Huffington Post. Where's Sam? Question, right here. Mr. Obama, there. Go ahead. Question, thank you, Mr. President. Today, Senator Patrick Leahy announced that he wants to set up a Truth and Reconciliation Committee to investigate the misdeeds of the Bush administration. He said that before you turn the page, you have to read the page first. Do you agree with such a proposal? And are you willing to rule out right here and now any prosecution of Bush administration officials? Mr. Obama, I haven't seen the proposal, so I don't want to express an opinion on something that I haven't seen. What I have said is that my administration is going to operate in a way that leaves no doubt that we do not torture. That we abide by the Geneva Conventions. And that we observe our traditions of rule of law and due process as we are vigorously going after terrorists that can do us harm. And I don't think those are contradictory, I think they are potentially complementary. My view is also that nobody's above the law, and if there are clear instances of wrongdoing, that people should be prosecuted just like any ordinary citizen. but that generally speaking, I'm more interested in looking forward than I am in looking backwards. I want to pull everybody together, including, by the way, the all the members of the intelligence community who have done things the right way and have been working hard to protect America. And I think sometimes are painted with a broad brush, without adequate information. The latest on President Obama, the new administration and other news from Washington and around the nation. So I will take a look at Senator Leahy's proposal. But my general orientation is to say let's get it right moving forward. Moraliasan. Question, thank you, Mr. President. If it's this hard to get more than a handful of Republican votes on what is relatively easy spending tons of money and cutting people's taxes when you look down the road at healthcare and entitlement reform and energy reform, those are really tough choices. You're going to be asking some people to get less, and some people to pay more. What do you think you're going to have to do to get more bipartisanship? Are you going to need a new legislative model, bringing in Republicans from the very beginning? Getting more involved in the details yourself from the beginning, or using bipartisan commissions? What has this experience with the stimulus led you to think about when you think about these future challenges? Mr. Obama, well, as I said before, Mara, I think that old habits are hard to break. And we're coming off of an election and I think people want to sort of test the limits of what they can get. You know, there's a lot of jockeying in this town and a lot of who's up and who's down and positioning for the next election. And what I've tried to suggest is that this is one of those times where we've got to put that kind of behavior aside. Because the American people can't afford it? The people in Elkhart can't afford it? The single mom who's trying to figure out how to keep her house can't afford it? And whether we're Democrats or Republicans, surely there's got to be some capacity for us to work together. Not agree on everything, but at least set aside small differences to get things done. Now, just in terms of the historic record here, the Republicans were brought in early and were consulted. And you'll remember that when we initially introduced our framework, they were pleasantly surprised and complimentary about the tax cuts that were presented in that framework. Those tax cuts are still in there. I mean, I suppose what I could have done is started off with no tax cuts. Knowing that I was going to want some, and then let them take credit for all of them. And maybe that's the lesson I learned. But there was consultation. There will continue to be consultation. One thing that I think is important is to recognize that because all these items that you listed are hard. That people have to break out of some of the ideological rigidity and gridlock that we've been carrying around for too long. And let me give you a prime example. When it comes to how we approach the issue of fiscal responsibility, again, it's a little hard for me to take criticism from folks. about this recovery package, after they presided over a doubling of the national debt. I'm not sure they have a lot of credibility when it comes to fiscal responsibility. Having said that, I think there are a lot of Republicans who are sincere in recognizing that unless we deal with entitlements in a serious way, the problems we have, with this year's deficit and next year's deficit. Pale in comparison to what we're going to be seeing 10 or 15 years or 20 years down the road. Both Democrats and Republicans are going to have to think. Differently in order to come together and solve that problem. I think there are areas like education, where some in my party have been too resistant to reform. And have argued only money makes a difference. And there have been others on the Republican side or the conservative side who said, no matter how much money you spend, nothing makes a difference. So let's just blow up the public school systems. And I think that both sides are going to have to acknowledge. We're going to need more money for new science labs, to pay teachers more effectively. But we're also going to need more reform, which means that we've got to train teachers more effectively. Bad teachers need to be fired after being given the opportunity to train effectively. That we should experiment with things like charter schools that are innovating in the classroom, that we should have high standards. So my whole goal over the next 4 years is to make sure that whatever arguments are persuasive and backed up by evidence and facts and proof, that they can work. That we are pulling people together around that kind of pragmatic agenda. and I think that there was an opportunity to do this with this recovery package because as I said, although there are some politicians who are arguing that we don't need a stimulus. There are very few economists who are making that argument. I mean, you've got economists who were advising John McCain. Economists who were advisors to George Bush 1 and 2 all suggesting that we actually needed a serious recovery package. And so when I hear people just saying we don't need to do anything, this is a spending bill, not a stimulus bill. Without acknowledging that by definition part of any stimulus package would include spending. That's the point. Then what I get a sense of is that there is some ideological blockage there that needs to be cleared up. But I am the eternal optimist. I think that over time people respond to civility and rational argument. I think that's what the people of Elkhart and people around America are looking for. And that's the kind of leadership I'm going to try to provide. All right. Staff, thank you. Question, one more, Mr. President. President Obama, thank you, guys. Barack Obama. First Presidential Weekly Address. Delivered January 24, 2009. We begin this year and this administration in the midst of an unprecedented crisis that calls for unprecedented action. Just this week, we saw more people file for unemployment than at any time in the last 26 years. And experts agree that if nothing is done, the unemployment rate could reach double digits. Our economy could fall $1 trillion short of its full capacity. Which translates into more than $12,000 in lost income for a family of 4. And we could lose a generation of potential. As more young Americans are forced to forego college dreams or the chance to train for the jobs of the future. In short, if we do not act boldly and swiftly, a bad situation could become dramatically worse. That is why I have proposed an American Recovery and Reinvestment Plan to immediately jumpstart job creation as well as long-term economic growth. I am pleased to say that both parties in Congress are already hard at work on this plan. And I hope to sign it into law in less than a month. It's a plan that will save or create 3 to 4 million jobs over the next few years. And one that recognizes both the paradox and the promise of this moment, the fact that there are millions of Americans trying to find work, even as, all around the country, there's so much work to be done. That's why this is not just a short-term program to boost employment. It's one that will invest in our most important priorities like energy and education. Healthcare and a new infrastructure that are necessary to keep us strong and competitive in the 21st century. Today I'd like to talk specifically about the progress we expect to make in each of these areas.